Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. It is once again I, Precious Ken, the Duchess. I am here with the whole crew because we have an extremely special interview, which God, I'm just trying to fucking contain myself. I'm geeked. I have with me, as always,
it is that. Oh.
Collin is not always with you anymore. You make it, like half the time these days.
1 in 3.
But Katy,
yeah.
It is you.
Well, we're both here.
Yes, and Collin too, and Collin's beard, which I think counts as an extra entity at this point.
It's 0.2.
Yeah, you're pretty much just a life support system for that beard at this point. Like, that thing is running the fucking show. We also have with us an amazing guest that was hugely influential to me, a really big deal to me, Mr. Rodney Lind of the band The Dead Milkmen. Welcome, Rodney.
Hello. I forgot to put orange juice in my Ronnie James Dio mug. But it's not really empty. I guess it's filled with the spirit of Dio. But I just looked down like, I'll take a sip. So I always like to have something to drink when I'm doing one of these, like nearby a liquid. Yeah. So it's the same reason if you're doing a meeting at work, you want to have something there, you get dry throat and I just realized, because I was again, I thought this was at 7:30. I'm like, no, wait, it's 7. So I didn't get to fill that up. So if my throat goes dry and I start speaking like this, accept it as something that happened.
Fair enough. Or if you start drinking from it and all of a sudden start talking about rainbow dragons, fighting sorcerers and barbarians and stuff, then we'll know you're just drinking pure Dio.
Yep.
When I was 16, I saw Ronnie James Dio. He's running Black Sabbath, and it was probably the loudest concert I'd ever been to, and I had hearing loss from it, and it was so worth it. It is literally so worth it. I'm like, well, you haven't been able to hear well since you're 16? I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
For a goth industrial podcast, we talk about Dio a lot more than you would suspect. I think this might be the 4th time or something, so that's appropriate. I'm going to get a little bit just, kind of, everybody should know your history. As a matter of fact, like, if you don't know about the Dead Milkmen Nixon, then your store could use some fixing. Like, I really won't go as deep as I usually do into this because this should be something that you know. But to me, you guys, when I was 16 years old, were an enormous deal to me that I am what you might consider to be a happy-go-lucky, silly goth. And, in the vein of the Gothsicles, and I mean, Amaranth, our band kind of has a lot of that. Like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I've always thought that was an important part of goth. Like, to really get done up in the full regalia, if you're still, like, thinking that isn't a little bit silly, like, I think you missed part of the boat, to me. Like, there are people that I think take it that seriously and get it, but another part of it has to be the tongue-in-cheek. And you guys did that for punk rock with me a lot. Show that, look, we talk about serious political things. We talk about fighting the man and changing the world and getting into it. But at the same time, like, we take the piss out of ourselves. And that's okay because you should be able to. And I feel like that transferred over to me and was such an important part of what I did. So I wanted to start getting my gushing out of the way, saying, thank you, sir, because that was a big deal for me. Tell me a little bit about, I guess that, because even with the new album that you just put out, I feel like you've changed your sound a lot over the years, here and there, and done different things. But that's been the constant. The fact that it isn't up its own ass. Like, you guys were okay to be tongue-in-cheek and bring humor to it, and no matter what the style of music you were doing, it was that. So tell me a little bit about why that's such an important part of the songs that you guys have done over the years and your writing style.
Well, I was thinking, if you want people to join up to something, it should have an element of fun, with a little bit of a wink to it. I always say that about Angel Spit. There are these incredibly political Angel Spit songs, but there's a little wink there. Or Caustic or the Gothsicles. There's probably a big wink with the Gothsicles. But again, they do it in rap with, like, MC Lars, or another great example would be Mega Ran. There's, and within even within black metal, I don't know if you've ever heard of there's an incredible band called Feminazgul, which is
Yeah,
my favorite name. That is genius. Like, how did you come up with Feminazgul? I would like, if I had that sort of like you, there's always been that. But when we first started playing in Philly, the bands were incredibly serious and they were very chuggy. So it was like, my stepdad, what a dick. And we were just like, yeah. But like I've been raised on stuff like Frank Zappa and things like that. So I thought there should be, Joe and I just thought there should be like a winking attitude toward it, and or at least like some element of humor. I don't know if we succeeded in that, but so we would start to play these shows, and people would get angry. I remember one guy, like when we were playing Abe's Steak, and I was talking to my wife about the other day. There was actually a guy like running around, like yelling, like, "You're not supposed to be smiling at punk rock shows," and he was serious. He was absolutely serious. I was like, "Wow, I wonder where he is now." I don't. But yeah, and we were lucky enough to be in Philly, which has a there's never been a Philly sound for punk.
Sure.
Like there's a DC sound and New York sound. New York, you think the Cro-Mags. DC, you think Minor Threat. For Philly, it's just been always just an accumulation of weird bands. So we could put anybody on a bill that we wanted. So like a weird rockabilly band, people would like. We could throw a poet up there. We could do all that. So coming up and doing something different wasn't all that. All that daring in that sense. Sooner or later, in Philly, somebody had to come up and attempt to have a humorous vein to it. So.
That's awesome. I think another thing I really want to get into here that I find so interesting is, yeah, of course, you're probably best known for, the punk rock and the Dead Milkmen, but you really do a lot and work with a lot the industrial scene, which I think a lot of people don't know as much, that, the remixes that you do and the DJ shows that you do. What really got you into, feeling industrial and goth and that style?
Couple of things. One was first of all, I consider that stuff to be punk. It's just another shade of punk. It's just, there's different, sometimes, some people like me, I can't tell the difference between different hues of like eggshell white and like, pastel white or whatever. I can't, bless anyone who can. So to me, it's just different shades of that. And I had gotten, around the time of like grunge and stuff, I wasn't into like Nirvana or Soundgarden or anything like that. And I was looking for different things. And my wife is probably the gothest woman on the planet. The running joke was that, if she will bleed a Sisters of Mercy album if anything happens to her. So the, I was listening to a lot of stuff she was listening to. She was kind of happy that I liked a lot of odd stuff. And, these bands when you have something collapse, the doors are open. They're not usually open for long, but like when disco collapsed, you could turn on TV and see like Devo or the B-52s because the music industry panics. They start throwing stuff out there. And there was a point where as grunge collapsed, they had freaked out and they started saying, hey, you Rasputina, do you want to be on TV? And so there was this, great opportunity to see some stuff and to just a big opening up, like, Dead Can Dance, big fans of them. I don't know, my wife, I'd heard them, but I think my wife, being a huge Dead Can Dance fan, had turned me on to them. So, and it's been sort of reciprocal. I'll turn her on to bands and she'll say, I really like this, or she'll go back and listen to the show and look at the set list and say, okay, this band is good. She's not much of an EBM person.
Sure.
I tend to be more of the EBM one in the family. But she's like, well, it's boom, boom, boom. I'm like, yeah. But I do play her the occasional stuff, and she's like, oh, this is good. I like that too. Great judge of music.
Everything.
Yeah, I run stuff by her every now and then just to get her opinion. So the thing she'd never forgive me for is the fact that she liked the music for "The Sun Turns Our Patio into a Lifeless Hell," but she hated the lyrics. Like, why would you put those lyrics? What are you going to do?
I was thinking earlier today about years ago, I saw a Cyanotic show. And
yeah.
They were billed with a bunch of other metal bands. Mm-hmm. And a big metal fan at the time, but also, like, I love Cyanotic. Sean's great. Good band. But the whole crowd was pissed as shit about the fact that they didn't they had drum machines and keyboards at a metal show and freaked the fuck out. And so when we were talking about doing this today, I was really thinking about the fact that how the hell did keyboards at a punk rock show go over when you guys started?
No, we didn't have them when we started. I actually started bringing them in because when we started, people can land on keyboards. Like, you know what I mean? Like the audience will land on them sooner or later. It wasn't until I absolutely needed to say, okay, this needs to change up a little bit. But Cyanotic, by the way, I bumped into them one time over at Quixote's. And I forget who was playing. Probably Velvet Acid Christ playing that night. And I'm going to be embarrassed. The band All Aboard for the Mustache Ride. Why am I blanking on the name? They were opening, and that was a good night. But it was like, oh yeah, Cyanotic, cool. But the keyboards, I had somebody one time walk up back. Now you understand, keyboards from what I had in the late 80s, early 90s. You have a big DX 7, which is gigantic and weighs 1,000 pounds. And then I had EPS Plus. I still have it, EPS Plus sampler on the one side. And somebody one time walked up and said, like, computers aren't punk rock, and threw their beer into it. It's just, you know. And now, you know, you've got to. Well, it's weird because I have when we tour for the touring setup for the Milkmen, I use a laptop that has a bunch of BSTs on it, and I use those sounds. And I think at one point we were playing some hardcore, and this is a couple of years ago, like hardcore punk place. All they ever had was punk bands, and the sound man was like fascinated that the sound was coming out of the computer. He's like, "How's this?" I'm like, and this is in the 21st century. This is like, you know, only a few years ago. I was like, you know, see, I hit these, and he was cool. He's like, "Oh, that's awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, look, guitar," you know. So, yeah, generally, I think we're far enough now that people really don't have a problem with it. But yeah, in the early days, you would get the occasional, you know. And it was, actually, I shouldn't say that because I can't give you the name of this person. But we were getting ready to do, long before the first album came out, we talking about putting out singles, and he'd given us the idea. And he was really like old school kind of punk. And I think it was Angel Spit usually does it. That's my litmus test for people how cool they are. And I was like, well, I sent over some Angel Spit, and I go, I don't want it to sound like this, but I wanted to have the attitude, and, you know, just what I, you know, was listening to. And that was it. He wanted nothing to do with us afterward. He was like, "Since no." So yeah, he wound up pumping his money into something that resulted into a video of a bunch of people skateboarding in a pool in, you know, like 2015 or something. Oh, we pull back. Pay no attention to the flowers.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Oh no!
I need to get a green screen.
I know, it's cool. I just got that. We've been doing neat stuff. Katy did graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's cool until it goes crashing
Until it
down.
falls down, yeah. Well, my ear.
Then it's extremely cool. Well, we don't know that wasn't something projected on the green screen behind it. That would have been.
I mean, that might end up cool when Katy does that. Like, you'll watch the logo slur off behind me. That'll be cool. Yeah.
It'll look really, really cool.
It will
it's
look
not
cool.
Gonna look bad.
It'll look very Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah, I want to get like Rick Wakeman's keyboard set up and the green screen that behind me.
We'll see what I can make happen for you. Because,
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. This might be a bit of a weird question, but you've been part of the Dead Milkmen for such a long time. I wonder, how have your priorities in life changed, and how do those things that have changed or stayed the same affect your music now?
I don't think I've ever had any priorities in life. I just kind of stumble through life. Like I literally, like, okay, this is good, and this is, priority in life wise. All I ever really wanted to do was, like, be in a band and live in Philadelphia. I got that. So, achievement made. That's, I was gonna say, set the bar low, but Philadelphia is a really cool city, and it's extremely tough on musicians, which it should be. If you go to Boston, I used to go to Boston, and they, you'd be in a club, and they say, like, in the club tonight is, they name these bands. I'm like, man, we never do that in Philly. And Philly, like, being in a band is like somewhere below, like, plucking chickens with your teeth for a living. So priority wise, I'm hoping that, like, I was, I think, 17 when I joined the band, and I'm 58 now. So that's a good 41 years. Yeah. And I'm hoping 17-year-old me would be okay, with 58-year-old me. I get bummed being in the band every now and then because I have completely different tastes and ideas, and it's usually like a 3-to-1 thing, and I'm the odd man out. So, and it's become more and more like that over the years. So I'm like, sometimes I sit there and I go, I don't know. I was talking to, oh God, this is years ago. I was talking to Donna Lynch from Ego Likeness, who is a font of wisdom. She is amazing.
She is
her
a
and Steven are,
garbage witch goddess.
yeah, her and Steven are the best people on the earth. And it's balanced out by Mind Cage. Mind Cage now. But I was telling her, I was like, yeah, sometimes I think I'm going to get fired. It's like, how long have you been in the band? And this point is like 40 years or something. Like, 35, 40 years, whatever it was. She goes, probably not. Well, yeah. But I have like my replacement picked out. I'm ready to go if it happens. I'm ready,
So
Boom.
were the Dead Milkmen was that like your first band that you joined?
Yeah, the first band I've been in the same band. I've been. This is weird. I tend to stick to things. I've been in the same job for a decade. I've been married for 26, almost 27 years. So I tend to, if I sign up for something, I'm going to see that through. Yeah.
It's like when you marry your high school sweetheart. It's so romantic.
No, I didn't know. Well, that would have been, yeah. No, she's a bit younger than me. So if I married her when she was in high school, that would not been. No, but she is my ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. As my friend, my friend Matt says, if I saw that in a movie, I'd walk out. My friend Ken was like, we were telling him, he's like, I wouldn't go in the first place. I wouldn't go.
Well, it sounds like your wife is really influential on a lot of the decisions that you make. Like, do you mind if I ask how you two met?
Well, yeah, we were, there was a friend of mine, it's a long backstory. A friend of mine was, as part of his condition for his parole, had to go to meetings in the basement of a church. And so he contacted me and he said, hey, I haven't seen you in years. I've got to do these meetings. You want to go hang out? And I'm like, yeah, there's a guy we used to have in Philly who unfortunately has passed away named Mikey Wilde. And Mikey was just amazing. He had these songs like Vincent, and they were genius songs. Like Vincent Price wasn't very nice in the House of Usher. He paid the price. And he was playing with the Morphines, who are a legendary Philly band. So I told my friend, I was like, let's go see this happen. And so we went, and well, we didn't. I went. He didn't show up, but my wife happened to be there. So that's where I met her. So I met her so the late Mikey Wilde really brought us together, but I'm sure he brought the world together. He was awesome. I once saw him accidentally turn off his keyboards and then start shouting, I need more keyboards in the monitor. And the whole audience is like, you turn them off, Mikey. Amazing.
That's awesome.
I miss him so much. Yeah, he was just great.
You've been talking about Philly a lot, which I know is a big part of your story, obviously. For me, though, I think I really want to go to Philly, but strangely, it's not for music. It's because I'm really into chefing, and in particular, like historical chefing. Mm-hmm. And there's this guy there named Walter Stave. I don't know if you know who this is.
I've heard, yeah.
A restaurant there where he goes around to like whatever, George Washington's manor or then Thomas Jefferson's or whatever, and will cook stuff off the land of exactly what they would have cooked out of their, history books and things like that. But he has a restaurant where they do it, and it's only in Philadelphia, and it's on my dream bucket list that I'm going to get a table menu by Walter Stave. He has like a PBS show. It's pretty awesome.
Cooking with a lot of weed out of Mount Vernon.
That's what I hear.
Washington grew a lot of wheat. And Washington used to separate the plants. He would separate the male and female, which you don't do unless smoky.
I think that, Dead Kennedys yelled at me about that for a while in a spoken word. I do have some recollection of that, yeah. Okay, so the other thing I want to let you roll into and talk about is I've been really, really excited lately about Twitch streams. Mainly because I can't be excited about live music for the last year and a half because we've been in a pandemic and lockdown. But people had to find a way, whether it was bands with live shows or DJs for their DJ nights or what have you. They had to figure something out. It completely destroyed the economy of it, right? And some of the, groundbreakers in it came up with the idea to go through and do live Twitch streams and have people join in, because I think people were just so hungry for the interaction part of the club, not just to hear new music and like have their finger on the pulse, but just to, I don't know, be in a room with people and say hi, even if it's just typing, and having a DJ talk to you and say something to you and feel connected to something. You have a Twitch stream that you've been doing it, and that's where kind of I learned a lot about the connection that you had with Steven and Matt and a lot of the industrial EBM guys. Talk to me a little bit about how that idea started for you and what your show is about and what you're trying to do with it.
Okay, well, this is going to be better. I actually don't have a Twitch stream.
Oh, it isn't on Twitch? It's just on
it's
Facebook?
It's not Twitch, no, but
okay.
I take a minute to plug my friend DJ Killboy, who's been doing a lot of stuff from out in Lancaster. Yep. With Shadowland. But no, my thing is kind of weird. It airs once a month. We have a station in town that is normally like the stuff I don't listen to, like alt rock.
Yeah.
And I went by the station one time. We were like stopped by to play, and they were like, "Would you like to do a radio show?" And I was like, "Can I play dark music? You know, can I play these bands?" And I actually once, I gotta be careful here. Some of those legal things. I've been once offered like money show to play, but
cash money.
Yeah, but then they were like, you can play some crazy stuff like the Pixies. I'm like, ooh, really going out there and
getting on an edge.
Yeah, highway to the danger zone. So I was like, I'll last like a minute. I don't think it was going to be that much money anyway. But so I was like, okay, I can play anything I want. And they're like, anything you want. You know, obviously, you know, we're not, you know, it can't be racist or sexist. I'm like, that's good. I wouldn't be playing that anyway.
Going to do that anyway.
Yeah, if I did, it would just be a weird scream for help or an ass kicking. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'd like to do this, and they're like, okay. They gave me an hour at first, and I was like, I came back and I said, can I have 2 hours? So I've been doing this for maybe like 8 years. I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
I literally have no idea how long I've been. I know at least goes back to at least 2014, maybe, when all this great music started coming out, and I really felt the need to do the DJ thing. But once a month on Friday, and then they repeat it that Sunday. I just do a show on Why Not Radio, and you just go on to, it's radio on the internet, the way Jesus meant it to be.
Exactly.
Pretty much is in the Bible. One of the commandments is that radio must be streamed through the internets. And I just go in, you listen, and I go and I live tweet along with everything, and I say, okay, here's what you heard in the first set, here's what opened it, and it's been sort of an evolving thing, but I like it because it keeps me busy in that I have to buy at least $30 worth of music a month. You know, I have to go in and say, okay,
that's a good goal. I do that easy.
Well, it's not a goal. I have to do it for the show, because the show's got like 30 songs in a 2-hour show. So give me one of these, and I try not to, I try to throw as much new stuff in as possible. Usually, maybe it might be about $20, but then I always think it's weird that you'll see I think every interview with a musician, at least post pandemic, should have it, and it should have been pre, not during. It should have been, what's the last piece of music you bought, and what's the last band you went to see? Like that would just clear out so much bullshit. Because I've known people that haven't bought a record since like 1986 are completely unaware that they've been making music since then. So yeah, I went to school like deadheads that thought they stopped making music in 72.
Well, I would say that I think, like, for us, and that is something I think goth can be guilty of sometimes, and is getting a lot better, though, is that it's always been a style of music that's obsessed with nostalgia. Like, if it's not the fucking Sisters, then fuck this shit, and I think that is changing, and like it's splintering off into a lot of different subgenres and new directions, which is exciting. So now, because you brought that up, it's going to take us into our next segment here, where I'm going to ask you, Rodney, what are the last couple things that you bought, and what was the last show that you went to go see before the world went crashing down? Boom, served it right back to you.
Okay, I think the last show was She Passed Away.
I mean, that's a good one. That's a good show.
That's a good show.
Yeah,
didn't you even write about it in you had a song on the 2020 album where you were talking, it cracked me up, where it kind of like, I pictured like this tragic goth character. It was just like, I have tickets to the She Passed Away show.
Oh, I did that? Okay. Well, I did have tickets to the She Passed Away show. Like that was the worst. Is like I had tickets. Einstein and Neubauten were coming to town.
Oh, okay.
That was supposed to happen. and the first stop was supposed to be Philadelphia, and we were like, something's going to go wrong, and it was the pandemic.
This
I think
is a sign of the end times.
Are starting
Obviously.
before here. Yeah, like every time I want to go see somebody, I'm like, oh, this is not. And I think it goes back to the '70s when Led Zeppelin were supposed to come. Like every time they were supposed to start a tour, they will start in Philly, and then like Robert Plant's child died, and then John Bonham died. I don't know why people say I'm going to start the tour in Philadelphia.
It's a death sentence, apparently.
Yeah, just don't.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll catch you on. Or sometimes they even skip Philadelphia. We see that a lot, where it's not. That's the worst. When you see a band that you love, like Boot Blacks, are coming to Ardmore, which is outside Philadelphia.
Yep.
I used to put them up like a list of where somebody would go to, like we're playing DC and then Trenton and then New York City. And like, there's a little city in between there. You might have
I get to see them twice this year. I'm excited.
See who? Boot Blacks or?
Boot Blacks, yeah.
I haven't got to see them yet, but I want to see them in actors.
You have to see it live. I mean, actors very much too, but like Boot Blacks is one of those shows I always tell people, it's great to listen to their album, and I love their album, but you have not experienced it until you've seen them live. They're just one of those bands that has a different switch when you see it live. Like it's a whole different energy, man.
And speaking of, that's the last show I saw live was actually.
Oh, that's true. That's
wow.
True. Yeah.
Well, that's a good one. That'll hold you for a while.
It just made me want more, but it was really freaking good.
It might have been that, or it might have been MC Lars and Schaefer the Dark Lord. Because I remember helping the load out, and it was kind of chilly, and they were in the middle of their tour. I think they had to turn around and come back. So I think it was one or the other. Because I tried to go to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for me it was Pigface with Curse Mackey. That was the last one that I got to see.
That would be a good one.
It was a great one. All right, next part of that question though. Tell me about 2 pieces of new music that you have bought recently.
I think the last couple of things I got were the new Shiver tracks off the new Shiver album.
Great. I love that. I just did a review of that. Absolutely fantastic.
Wax
cool
Wings with Berm, which was out before that, was absolutely brilliant. And even the remixes for Wax Wings with Berm were incredible. I picked up some Plaque Bleg, and it was weird because I was on the Bestial Mouths remix album with him, and he was like, and it turns out he was a fan from being a little kid. So I'm like,
that's awesome.
How do we influence? I'll take it.
That also sounds like something that you would see like in the old 80s movie Howard the Duck that would be on like a fake album, would be like Quack Flag or something,
And the Devours, the new stuff from Devours, which is incredible. Absolutely. He's made a double album, which I usually tell people, this is twice now. I always tell people, like, don't do a double album. Mr. Kitty pulled it off. Mr. Kitty, brilliant.
He did it, more than pulled it off. Forrest
but Forrest can do anything. Literally, we had Forrest on a bill with us, and he was kind of nervous. I'm like, our crowd just consists of mutants. As long as you're weird, they'll like you. And he did Jolene, and the crowd went so nuts for it. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. So I always tell people, don't make a double album. But the last Curly and Camera album was a double album. That was brilliant. I got that. And the new Devours album says it's a double album. It's like 18 songs. So does it work out to be maybe? But that's really good. But I usually tell people but I think just under lockdown, people had time to make double albums.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people, break it into 2 albums. Release it like 6 months apart or whatever. But yeah.
I think people have just become polarized on it now, just like the rest of the world, where like either you put out singles or you put out a double album, but nobody's going in between anymore. Yeah. It's one or the other. You got 2 options, kid.
It's not like, oh, look, it's like side 3 of Yes songs. Put out the quadruple album with, give a little tribute there to Yes songs. We used to have a friend of ours, Brian Beatty from Glass Eye, used to go tell the audience, and now throwing away the rest of the set, and we're going to play side 3 of Yes songs. I just love that.
Lovely. Katie, you want to go next?
Well, I mean, I don't want to step on your toes, Ken, but you did mention
my toes can take.
Yeah.
You mentioned something yesterday to me about something that Rodney's into that I think is very interesting. If you wouldn't mind telling me about your Dungeons and Dragons campaigns.
Oh, that No, I started playing that.
Nervous. I don't know why you were so nervous.
No, it's one of those things that used to carry a stigma, and then like actors and like people in the adult film industry got into Dungeons and Dragons, and it was suddenly cool. You get these phone calls from like like okay, all right, I've got a 12th level bard here, and I'm like, you're not on the set, are you? I grew up playing it because I was like, might shock you, I was a little scrawny nerdy guy, so it wasn't into sports, and so I grew up playing that, and I had it around for a long time, and I have. Again, you can't see it. There's a whole bunch of great stuff over just off camera. Old Dungeons and Dragons books, copies of the Dragon from I think 1979. So I started playing when I was young, and just in time for the Satanic Panic. You need to time these things, folks. Just in time. Yeah. That Paradise Lost. The
couple kids take some acid, go into a sewer with some bats, and all of a sudden,
yeah. I got to see, it's great because I believe at one point we stopped the game so we could watch Mazes and Monsters with Tom Hanks. Before he was like Tom Hanks, that is a great movie. So friend of ours we were playing Laurel Hill, and they were doing like a LARPing thing. This is a few years back. And out of that, he came up with the idea for a Dungeons and Dragons module. And at first I was kind of on the fence. I'm like, And then as it developed, like, this is the coolest thing ever. This makes me so happy. I haven't got a chance to play it yet. Which is killing me. I've been extremely busy. I did I think I worked every day for my wife and I came back from a tiny vacation, and I think I worked every day for 3 or 4 weeks straight, last weekends too and everything. And that's around the time that the full module PDF arrived. I'm hoping to get to play it at some point. I'm really looking forward to it. My mind is blown. At one point, I think there was a picture. Well, I have it. I don't have it handy, but I have a picture around here of the artist who drew of me as a tiefling, which is what I play now as. So, I had my horns and everything. So
I played it, and it is fabulous. We played it as an all kobold party.
Oh, wow.
So we had a kobold barbarian, a kobold shaman, okay, and we played through the module, and it was an absolute blast and very funny.
Years ago, they came out with a module that was kobolds, but it was really set up so they would wind up taking out a lot of players. This is actual module that was sold, made available, and it was great because there's all these 18th level clerics and stuff or whatever clerics get taken out left and right. Let's say 18th level barbarian, whatever, getting taken out by first level kobolds. I'm like, this can't be happening.
You get enough of them, and those traps will take.
Traps were quite clever, and it has to survive somehow. Yeah. So I just I grew up just loving that, and it was a great escape. It was a great way. My parents were kind of cool as I became a teenager about looking the other way on a bottle or two of beer set on the table when we were playing that. And my friends were, outcast, and it was just really, really a good, fun thing to do was to have something to do on a Saturday night. Yeah. And then Freaks and Geeks came out, that TV show. And I was watching that at one point, and I didn't see it the first time too, but somebody told me, and I saw the Dungeons and Dragons episode. I'm like, that is such a snapshot of my life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that guy that did it grew up in the Midwest too. And, to your point, I think I went through a lot of that, and I hear you too, that there was kind of a stigma about it before. Yeah. And it is weird. I mean, you mentioned Freaks and Geeks, but even after that, Stranger Things, I think really propelled.
I didn't see Stranger Things because I started watching it, and they were like the Balrog, not the Balrog, the Demogorgon. And I'm like, it's not the Demogorgon. It's just, a Demogorgon.
Yeah, there were multiple, right.
I'm like, I'm out. If you're not going to do this by the rules, I'm gone. And I never watched Stranger Things after that.
Well, it is pretty good. It is decent, worth watching. But that is, I don't think it did capture the magic as much as the Freaks and Geeks. Really, I think you're right, nailed it. But I do think that there is this thing now where, being a dork, stuff like I got my ass whipped for has become cool now. It's a hip thing. And there is some of that kind of, I remember when I first started dating Rachel, when we were first going out, we went through a while there where I was like, okay, well, I could go hang out with you on Tuesday or Friday night or whatever, but Wednesday I'm busy. Well, what are you doing on Wednesday? I've got stuff that I do. I can't hang out that night. But, whatever. And I think we went like maybe 2 or 3 months into like dating on our before I was finally like, okay, I played Dungeons and Dragons that night. Okay, I'm not dating anyone else, or I'm rolling dice. Okay, get off my back.
Yeah, I think once Joe Manganiello chopped off the hand of Vecna, and that became first. Joe Manganiello. This is not a geek. This is somebody who would never think was one of us. And then I think Cyrene Phoenix is the young lady with the ears and very modelish. And I think once these people began to kind of fess up, Manganiello has the basement of his house was like a wine vault, and that was transformed into his D&D.
Into a dungeon.
Yeah, but I mean, once he did that,
the floodgate was open.
A whole new world opened up, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this isn't just a bunch of spazoids, and like the people we beat up. This is the Now I wish he played D&D with us when I was younger, because he could have kicked the butts of anybody that would have made fun of us.
We could have got away with everything back then.
And it became like a secret. It was almost in a way like queer coding. Like, are you a friend of Dorothy's? Because somebody would say like, oh, I better do you'd be at lunch, like, oh, I want to do a saving roll on this food. And everybody would turn around and go, play D&D? And then that's how like people would recognize. You would just let something like that would slip. And then, like the cool people, or maybe so uncool they were cool, I don't know. But it did attract the attention of a lot of the cooler kids, like the kids that would stand on the other side of our school. If you stood on the other side of the street in front of it, you could smoke. And so all the kids would smoke. What's this D&D thing? But I think they got into it because people were railing against it. Once there's a PTA meeting about the dangers of something, it's instantly cool. Everybody wants in on it.
I definitely think like there was a point where it was us, all of the band kids and the theater kids and stuff like that a lot. But then once it started to become of the devil, the metal kids got into it, and then we weren't getting our asses kicked as much, because like those guys were usually pretty tough, I
used to carry around the Jack Chick Dark Dungeons pamphlet, the one with the Blackleaf, no, and I would show it to like sort of the metal-y kids or everything. I listened to a lot of metal too back then, so I like, oh yeah, take a look, how cool is this? Jack Chick hates it, and they're like, whoa. So yeah, Jack Chick probably was the great. And somebody, by the way, took the Jack Chick pamphlet. You can find it online, Dark Dungeons, and they made a movie out of it. And he gave them permission to do it. He didn't realize that they were jerking him around. And it is a great. At one point, they show like the goth kids are walking down, and they're like, it's the cool goth kids, and it's just like they just have so much fun, like sinking Jack Chick's ship. That it's fantastic.
Now the goth kids, that when I like. With the other goths, we wouldn't play D&D as much. That was with my other nerd friends. We played Vampire the Masquerade. Did you ever do the White Wolf thing?
No, I didn't do that. Although I would have probably been the we called them the malcontents. What was the
Malkavians?
Malkavian tribe. Yeah, I would have probably been one of those, or just because of my weird Nosferatu, because of my weird physical appearance. But look at the kitty. Both of our cats are out roaming around, but they usually like to get into the meetings. We had a really, that ended here and took a club with it. There was one of the guys that was into it actually turned out to be and played it here regularly, murdered some people.
What?
And of course, whenever somebody murders somebody, it's either going to be heavy metal or Dungeons and Dragons, some role-playing game. This is pre-video games. You couldn't blame it on video games. So it's either going to be heavy metal or a role-playing game. And that was, we used to have a club here called the Asylum. I think that was the nail in its coffin. I think they were up for a renewal of their loan, and somebody said, nah.
That crushed it. Wow.
But Malifaux, I'm a war gamer. I don't know if you ever played Malifaux, which is the sort of steampunk goth, it's more of a skirmish game, but I have a bunch of that because I used to play regular wargaming. I used to do basically like Roman soldiers against against Germanic tribes and stuff like that. I have a whole bunch of that stuff.
The hexagons, like I love those.
Yeah.
Like the old,
and that kept me sane for a long time. And then I went to a wargaming convention. I'm famous for this. You can actually make a note and hide troops places. Like I'm going to hide my troops in the trees or whatever. And I thought somebody did that. So I took all this artillery I had, which is catapults and scorpions and stuff, and just unloaded into these trees. And they didn't have anybody hidden there. And the rest of the day I was walking around and I was like, oh, this idiot just unloaded, and it gave him time.
Everything he had over to
And I
these
felt so.
three.
I redeemed myself later in an ancient Egypt game, but and they, you can buy beer. You used to be able to buy beer at these things. There at the Valley Forge Convention Center. So you could walk around with a beer. So I'm walking around and I'm like, I'm going to need more beer if people are going to make fun of me. But the Malifaux people were there. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. There are goth people here. What are they playing? Oh, and they're like Malifaux. And the other people were kind of afraid of them. So that was fun.
They had their own thing. I love the weird turn that this interview has taken.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
This is exactly where I wanted to go with this. Collin, you're up next.
Well,
What do you want to ask about?
I want to get this back to a little bit more serious.
Ooh.
What repercussions did you get from the Sasquatch Mafia from your last album?
This was my favorite song on that album, so I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you like that. We that was one of those things. I think we were just, I forget what the challenge was for that. Those were all challenges. Like, like I think that was when we were passing stuff around, and I was like, I don't want to do the stuff I normally do, vocals, keyboards. I thought maybe on that I originally planned to do, like, I did percussion on a couple of them and started it that way, and that came around, and I forget what triggered it. I was sitting. You can't. Again, let me move this up here. You can see up here at the top up there. You're going to see a bunch of instruments up. See, there's a Midnight Cryptid show.
Yeah.
Of that keyboard. Yeah. So that, I think I was looking at that and I thought, for some reason, I thought Loch Ness Monster, La Cosa Nostra. And I like to build these complex stories in my head, and where I put things together and then try, can we get from A to D, what would take us there? And that's the reason I like fan theories and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, how do we come up with that? I'm thinking, okay, Bigfoot in the Mafia, it explains so much. Like, he would be able to carry these bodies, and and definitely took out Kurt Cobain in Seattle. Where they see Bigfoot, they see Bigfoot, all over Washington State. It's just it's that simple. So I began to put that together. So yeah, we haven't heard from the Bigfoot Mafia, although I do love the idea of Bigfoot taking out JFK.
That was my favorite. In order to make that shot,
yeah, you would have to be.
The person would have to be at least 8.5 feet tall.
Yeah, I've had to deal with a lot of like JFK conspiracy theories in my life, and I always feed them these weird little things that aren't true, and they always wind up like in their theory. And here's another thing. Did you know Sam Giancana was like ambidextrous? And then I'm like, I just made that up.
Oh, beautiful. Going back to the goth thing, another song that to me always gets me, and to me, I just always feel a very personal connection to, kind of because I do have this, I love going to goth clubs, and I love dancing, and I love the music, and I'm a huge fan, but it also, you have to laugh a little bit at how seriously it gets taken sometimes. And You'll Dance to Anything is a track that, from the first time I heard it, it just resonated with me because I've been there. I feel like I've had that conversation before.
That was a real conversation. That was nothing. I'm good at eavesdropping, and I was in a goth club in, like, I think outside Dallas, which is in the early 90s or late 80s. That's a tough place. And I was in there, and there was a very funny,
I know about Dallas Goths and how tough they are right now, I assure you.
Yeah, well, there was a very funny guy, just very snarky, standing by the just by the bar holding court and just smoking and just saying very funny things. So I always position myself so I can listen. Like, pretty much a lot of the songs I write are just stuff people said. I heard it and I repurposed it. And he actually, he said the line, oh, don't you look like Susie Sue? And just like everything in that song. I think Depeche Mode came from him. I love Depeche Mode, but he was just so funny, and so, like, and he understood. It was weird because it wasn't long after this song came out, and I'm not claiming responsibility for it, but you did get goth industrial music getting a lot better. But there was this is kind of written, I think, at the low point. People were just going to clubs to go to clubs, and he was just, he was just laying out these, like, sort of snarky lines, and I'm like, geez, I gotta. Usually I'll try to write down everything, or just, I'll grab like a napkin and just kind of eavesdrop and hang out in the periphery and write down. Like the beginning of Bitch and Camaro, that's pretty much a word for word conversation of two people ahead of me in line at the Wawa buying microwavable burritos set. Stuart, a guy actually said that to me. Sub and Stuart, a guy actually walked up to me in Oklahoma and said, I'd like to say I like you guys because you know what queers are doing to the soil. And I'm like, okay. And I think it's the same guy who told me they let him out in time to come see us. And I'm like, wow.
Wow.
Out in the van with all the doors locked for a while. Yeah, so I mean, literally people hand you stuff like that. There was one time, this is many years ago. I think we like Big Lizard was out, and I don't even think the second album was out, but I was outside of a supermarket where two like 80-year-old women were beating the shit out of each other. There's a guy, he's like, yeah, I got a band, but we're having trouble coming up with song ideas. Like two old women.
Did you just see that?
Yeah, in an argument about cat food, by the way, are beating the snot out of each other. So yeah, I used to, life will hand you songs. I just sit there all day long and write stuff down and go, okay, this will be a song. Like I did the other day for a song called Philadelphia Femdom. It's like the song Philadelphia Freedom, but it's about dominatrix works in Philadelphia. I just thought that would be. I just sit there and just scribble those things all day long. Like, okay, this may be a song or may not. And then on Sunday,
you go around smelling stuff, and these were just a few of your favorite smells.
Yeah, well, that was a bad idea. Some of the songs did not. Some of them I'm not proud of. And that was that was based on actually a friend of mine who was supposed to be at the church for Mikey Wilde used to have all these weird smell theories. And he had no furniture in his growing up. He had no furniture in his bedroom. It was all like piles of dirty clothes. And he'd be like, he could make a chair here. And I think when we were teenagers, I asked him why he didn't get furniture. He said, you can bump your knee on it when you're drunk. Man.
That's wisdom. That's from God's lips.
That's one of those things that sticks with you when you're a kid. Like, wow. Yeah, I guess you can.
The misplaced ottoman was another one of my favorites.
Yeah, the ottoman was because when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend who watched, Dick Van Dyke Show. That's what she would watch in the summertime. And I would come over and hang out, and she would watch Dick Van Dyke. And she had really weird theories about, first of all of their friends, when they have a party, all the guys are clones of Lenny Bruce. They all look just like Lenny. She's like, any minute now, Lenny's going to get up and do a monologue. And she also was convinced that the Petries were swingers. Because every now and then Laura would don this like unitard and go out and do like these modern dance. It's like, I've been to some interesting parties, but I've never had one where the hostess donned the unitard and came out and did. But yeah, those parties look great. Yeah.
Yeah. That would definitely holds water.
We gotta change our party aesthetic.
Yeah. Well, she was also obsessed by the comedy of Maury Amsterdam. She thought the Maury Amsterdam character was interesting. And then years later, we got this list of opening acts. I don't know how the wrong company got us. That's what they did. And they sent us a list of their opening acts. And they have Maury Amsterdam, who we really wanted to get to open. And the other was a thing called the Globe of Death. It's two people on a motorcycle in this like looping around. And we wanted to get like Maury Amsterdam to be in the middle of the Globe of Death. But why can't we book both of these? But yeah. Apparently, like I have trouble keeping, like not laughing on the phone. Like, Maury Amsterdam. Yeah, but that would have been great. That would have probably set the tone for all of our shows that came out.
All right, so I do want to give a chance to. We talked a bit about the new album that you had coming out, and I love the name of it. Depends on the horse. It's just one of those phrases that.
So, I already forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, So I want both you to kind of talk a little bit about just coming back out and doing a Dead Milkmen album. But then do you guys have a plan going forward for the future of playing any shows now that maybe you can start booking them or doing them? Or I know you have a project that you do with your wife too.
No, that's not my wife. Well, that's going to sound weird if you say that. She's somebody else's wife. Yeah. No, the Depends on the Horse is just stuff made up from the what we call the TV show, the YouTube show. That was stuff from the challenges, stuff we have laying around, and we thought people kept asking us like, can you make this available? And we were like, why? You really want a song about Bigfoot? And there's all these like skiing on acid and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. And the theme song is very popular, which Dean did. On his like modular setup. So I was like, okay, we'll make it available. I think it was pay what you want. We were working on an album before everything shut down, so we had a ton of songs, including one. There's a harsh R. It's like Shivar or harsher song called "I'm the Queen of Filth," and so I made a song to that called "I'm the King of Sick," which I thought was good. Or is it, what's his face? No, Queen of Trash is the harsh R song. Queen of Filth is King of Filth or Queen of Filth. One of them is a Cramps song. I'm so confused. So yeah, eventually I got so much stuff. I actually kind of stopped writing Milkman stuff and concentrated on getting the Seventh Victim stuff done during the lockdown. Now Janet, who is our singer, the band's singer, the singer of the band and co-writer and all that, she doesn't, I have a home studio and do dolls and stuff like that. She comes more out of a acoustic tradition. So she didn't have that set up and she able to do some stuff, but I was just like, you know what, we'll put your vocals on hold. I'll work on music. You can tell me what do you think of this and that. And then she works on lyrics. And so I've got at least a dozen, maybe 16 songs ready for that, including some really weird covers. So that should be interesting when that gets back off the ground. But yeah, that would come up, and eventually Milkman will play some shows. I think, before the end of 2021, if things keep going as they are, we'll play some shows. I was being extremely careful for a long time, and then after I got vaccinated, I was still overly careful. And then we just had a big block party because everybody in the block is vaccinated. And I was like, well, that didn't get me, so I guess I'm fine. But yeah.
Well, we're fully vaccinated, and you say the word, and we're out to Pennsylvania. We're not that far. We're in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah, we'll
come see a show.
The whole band is vaccinated. We just gotta, now we gotta have practices. Like getting people vaccinated was probably easier than getting them to practice.
Practice.
Yeah, like I'd practice at home all the time, and then I'm good with going out to practice, and I'm a pretty disciplined songwriter. Again, to mention Angel Spit, Zug from Angel Spit taught me the philosophy of church, where Sunday you tell people, I'm at church, don't bother me, and you use Sunday to write songs. Then you can think about that song for a week. You're basically making a song a month, and it's I try to be very disciplined in my songwriting. Plus, I want to try out ideas. Sometimes I have a new piece of equipment, and what's this do, or what's that, or I just have a song idea that I need to get down on, not on tape. That's what we used to have. Get down on hard drive or whatever it is now. Get down on ones and zeros, and then I, if I don't, it's stuck in my head or on a list, and it starts, banging around there and bothering
the inside. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get this one out and get the next one. Yeah.
I get to interject a nerd question then. Is there any new equipment, software, anything like that has got you all inspired and going?
This thing right here, I'm reaching up here. Here we go. I got it hooked up to some stuff. So I'm gonna have to pull some wires off of it. I don't like to have a lot of expensive equipment around because I think people should be able to buy the stuff that I have because it's money, and I don't like looking at a musician who has, thousands of dollars of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars stuff.
That wouldn't be very punk rock.
Yeah, I can't afford, not so much punk rock, like I can't afford that. And I try to make do with what people can make do with. This is the Korg NTS-1. It looks like a little synthesizer, which it is. You can play it with a stylus or your finger, but it is the greatest effects unit of all time. And you can get these great third-party effects for next to nothing. It's about $100. You put it together yourself, and the effects are incredible. So I've been using the effects from this as sort of motivators lately. So yeah, this is just absolutely fantastic. And it's the same engine that's in like the, I think like $600 or $600, let's call it $600-700 mini Korg or Korg Minilog XD. The Minilog XD has the same NTS engine and can use the same sort of sounds and effects and all that. So yeah, this thing is really exciting for me.
Collin has a problem, and I just saw his eyes move while you were talking, which means he literally just went and bought that thing while you were talking, I guarantee.
I got a buddy, I won't tell you what band he's in, but the lockdown actually, I think, kind of worked out for him in some ways, because he would go out to like a club, and then he would, like late at night, I'd see a message from him, like, hey, had a good time out, had a few drinks with me. Here's what I'm going to buy. I'm like, no, yeah, that's the thing. That's
That's a real thing. Yeah.
Now, I've had to be careful. There's a lot of stuff I want to have, but I'm good at saying, all right, do I need it? And I like to try and make do with the stuff I have. I mean, I've often seen people with these, $100,000 modular systems that are gigantic, and the guy's just basically using it for a sweep filter to go, whoosh. Like, that sounds good, but does it worth the price of a house? I don't know.
I am terrified. I will not buy one single modular unit because I know, like, crack is bad, but that seems worse.
Eurocrack. Instead of Euroracks, Eurocrack is the term, yeah. But then I see people that have them. George from Youth Code, that modular system killed. And Three Teeth, they had a guy actually had a modular system out on tour with them, which I applaud. I mean, if you're Three Teeth, that's a bold move. That's not like, some little symphonic band or something, or, some Williamsburg type band. No, Three Teeth, there's a lot of movement at those shows.
And you got to hit it dead on every time, getting the exact same, pitch and modulation. Yeah,
They're really tough. Yeah, awesome. I grew up really on digital synths, FM synthesis. So, which nobody other than apparently me and Brian Eno understand. And when it came back, I was really popular. I was like, I had all these patches. Here, let me just reach over. I keep reaching over here, but
that's something I never get stayed off. That's something that just only me and Brian Eno understand.
Yeah. Oh, I can't find it. I got all these old. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here.
Like Rodney, David Bowie.
I've got these old books, like 300. Yeah, 300 voices for Yamaha 4 operator synth. Of course, is the DX11, which I used to love.
Got a semi.
Look, it's crammed with all this other patch stuff from another book I apparently tore apart for 6-op synths. Yeah, I've had this stuff since like the 80s. So.
All right, we've hit up to the 1 hour mark. Katy,
sorry.
You're good. You're good.
I love this.
Katy, do you have a parting thought or question that you want to share with Rodney?
As a matter of fact, I do. All right. I know that we just met, but would you possibly mind doing me a favor?
No, I probably wouldn't.
Okay. So with all of your cunning observations and your storytelling capabilities, do you mind writing a choose your own Philadelphia adventure book?
I would love to write. I don't know if I ever get time to write it. A choose your own Philadelphia adventure book is just where you want to get stabbed. You want to get stabbed up at. You want to get stabbed outside.
Turn to page 59, you get stabbed. Turn to page 31, stabbed.
Nobody ever believes the stuff about Philly. Up the street from me is an Acme supermarket, or Acme, as they pronounce it in the Northeast, where H.H. Holmes was hanging, America's first serial killer. And there's a little shrine to him in there. So like the choose your own adventure would just be these like weird spots, like, up in like the Eraser, we have a place called the Eraser Hood and stuff like that. Probably might not be a bad idea. If you want to get stabbed where H.H. Holmes was hanged, go to page 14. If you want to get stabbed where there was the weird David Lynch party where David Lynch actually showed up, go to page 24. So that might be a good idea. Or I could do it like Encyclopedia Brown, or the solutions, which are never that difficult.
I'm really disappointed now though, because I've done a number of art shows and things in Philadelphia.
You've never been stabbed?
I've never been stabbed there.
If you haven't been stabbed, you're not really trying.
I should make the joke because Ogre, when Skinny Puppy played here, I think it was when the Skinny Puppy, I don't know if it was one of his separate projects, he actually got mugged here. Somebody punched him in the jaw, and he played the show. But so I should probably not make the mugging jokes. But
yeah,
I did almost get mugged. I just ran really fast. So
yeah, I've only been mugged like once or twice. And once my 30th birthday, I was drunk. I think it's only been once that I've ever really, somebody came in and put like a finger in my back and like, don't move or I'll shoot. And I was so drunk, like, oh, sure, and then they took my wallet and they just took the money out and left the credit cards. And I think I thanked them for that. Thanks for leaving the credit cards.
That was really kind of you, Mr. Mugger.
Yeah. I'm going to, for my final question, I'm going to abdicate my question to Mr. Matt finale, who wishes me to ask,
Fantastic.
tell me the Blue Oyster Cult story.
What's the Blue Oyster Cult story?
He told me you would say that.
Mhm.
And then to press, you know the Blue Oyster Cult story that I'm talking about.
That now is this okay? Now I don't know if this happened from the tour. I'm going to hate myself for forgetting what this is because I did a tour with Ego Likeness, Stoneburner, Caustic, and Mindless Fate were all on it. So the Blue Oyster, it could be one of Matt's codes for something because Matt.
He's got a lot of codes.
Yeah, Matt has to speak in code. What is the blue? I'd love to know what the Blue Oyster Cult story is. I feel terrible because I don't have it. Go back to him and find out what the hell that is.
I'm going to have to because he told me to press you hard with my journalistic integrity about this. And I was like, I don't have any journalistic integrity.
It had to be something that happened on the tour. And I didn't drink on that tour. Because, Matt doesn't drink. Steven doesn't drink.
Right.
You want to join. You want to be a joiner inner. And for that tour, Matt would have designated drinkers. I'd love to know what the Blue Oyster Cult. Like every day on that tour, something weird and frightening would happen. So like by the end of it, at one point I got him because he went into, he had to meet Kaja and pick her up. And we had to stop at we stopped at a rest stop on the way back because she wanted to grab something to eat or something. And I went and got one of those power bars, chocolate power bars, went into the men's room, wiped my hands with it. So it was all, my hands was covered in chocolate, came out licking my finger. Like, hey, Matt, what's up? Because you can do that to him now. He used to embarrass people, but now it's fun to embarrass him. I think I got fired like 3 times on that tour. I got fired a lot on that tour. That was a really good tour though. Everybody had a fantastic time. I'm still vague on it. At one point, oh God, they were going to kill us because Mind Cage and I was sharing like an air mattress with Matt, and then my head was near Mind Cage's. And for some reason, we started laughing like little girls or something. And everybody started laughing at the way we were laughing. But it was a combination of being on tour and you're not sleeping. We started out the tour from Philadelphia where, Ego Likeness had played till like 3 a.m. And we had to be up at 7 to drive to Detroit. So by the time we hit Detroit, we were just completely gone. And before that, partway there somewhere in Western PA, Mind Cage Rick decided that all these old guys at rest stops look like prospectors. So he was following them around talking like, he. And then he started accusing him of jumping his claim for his glory hole. Like, you jumped my claim. That's my glory hole, but you jumped my claim. And I'm like, I was just completely burned out. I'm like, I can't. I literally can't. Yeah, and that's how it would be. Like we would stop like in the middle of Wisconsin at night. And, like Donna would go, oh, I go around the van and change. And I'm like, well, what if there's like a serial killer out there? And Steven's like, I think Donna will be okay. Those are weird things. Like, I remember like a giant, like 6 foot tall plunger in a bathroom. Like, why? That was a strange, God.
Actually, that part makes a lot of sense.
As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to remember what the Blue Oyster Cult story is. Maybe that's better. That moves into obscurity or something. It might have been because we were listening to Blue Oyster Cult. Because Donna picks the station, and
yes.
She likes like 80s rock. Like her, her favorite song is I think like Toto's Africa or something. So and so Blue Oyster Cult probably had to come up on the radio at some point. But the whole thing was to get to a festival and then play there and then come back and so that was and the festival had like Angel Spit and Gothsicles and there were a ton of bands at it. So that was fun. We made it to the location. We did our thing and moved on. But that was it was like one of those really weird road journeys. I wish I filmed the whole thing because it just kept getting stranger and stranger every day. Jason from Mindless Faith would have his studs glued to his head, and people thought they were actually in there. And can I touch that? And, stopping in little towns on that tour was amazing.
Well, just so you know, Sounds and Shadows viewers, I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to hit the pavement.
Yeah,
find out more
finale.
About why Rodney doesn't.
If I have to film a separate little thing and send it to you, where I'm explaining what the Blue Oyster Cult story is. But yeah, I mean, I get to play in Caustic a couple times, which is really good. Down in Delaware once, down in Delaware is when the cops showed up, and Matt was all excited. He was like, "The police are here! The police are here!" Somebody called the police on us, and he was like, "You're happy." He was like, "Yeah." Somebody called because it's kind of rock and roll, Somebody called the cops on us. I think and I think the complaint was about, I'm not kidding, scantily clad women out front of, because like near Halloween, and there were some Halloween costumes, I guess, like around. The first time I went to go to that club, which is Bar 13 down in Delaware, outside Wilmington, it was a great club. First time I went to go there, this guy tried to talk me out of it. I stopped, asked directions, like, "Mister, you don't want to go there. Those people are really weird."
Be like, who do you think I am, sir?
I'm just like, you're just selling it. The more you say, the more you sell it. So.
All right. Normally at this point, I would ask our guest which song they would like to, from their most recent album to spin us out of the interview. But I'm sorry, Rodney, I'm not going to give you that option because we are going to play Bigfoot and the Mob.
Oh.
That is how it's going down. Bigfoot and the Mob by Dead Milkmen. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed the hell out. I really needed it. I had a rough day at work. This was a lot of fun. All right, I'll see everybody later. Bye.
Take care.
While there are literally hundreds of Bigfoot documentaries available to the consumer, only one film, the award-winning Bigfoot and the Mob, dares to expose the connection between organized crime and Sasquatch. Bigfoot and the Mob presents clear and incontestable evidence proving beyond the shadow of a doubt that for decades the underworld has been using Bigfoot as well as other cryptids as hired muscle, drug couriers, and yes, my friends, even as paid assassins.
La Cosa Nostra, Loch Ness Monster, Loch Ness Monster, La Cosa Nostra.
Take, for example, the assassination of President John Fitzpatrick Kennedy. Ballistic experts all agree that the only way for Lee Harvey Oswald to have shot JFK from the book depository window would be if Oswald had been over 8 feet tall and covered in thick, matted hair.
La Cosa Nostra, Loch Ness Monster, Loch Ness Monster, La Cosa Nostra.
One evening late, just about dusk dark, a friend of mine, I encountered eyes. They were yellow or amberish colored, real wide apart. So this friend of mine, Jim Hartzog, he took a gun, went into this area, and to try to kill whatever it was. And he said that he came face to face with this thing. It looked something like 8 by 7 foot tall, and he fired on it.
Your wife's a Bigfoot, isn't she, Gus?
The disappearance of union boss Jimmy Hoffa has remained a mystery until now. Only Bigfoot and the Mob dares to pose the question, what sort of creature could have easily carried off the notorious Stuff Guy? And why didn't the FBI scour the area of Hoffa's abduction for the tracks of a large hominid? In the early 1990s, the music of Nirvana drew the world's attention to Seattle, Washington, which, coincidentally, is the hub of the Sasquatch Mafia Alliance. Fearing exposure, Bigfoot was dispatched to deal with Kurt Cobain.
La Cosa Nostra, Loch Ness Monster, Loch Ness Monster, La Cosa Nostra. La Cosa Nostra, Loch Ness Monster, Loch Ness Monster. Don't call Sinatra.